The universe is full of patterns, endlessly repeating over and over again, at different scales and proportions, revealing themselves, perhaps for the sole purpose of creating order within chaos. The Tawantinsuyu, better known as the Inca Empire, was the largest empire in the pre-Columbian America, covering more than 3 million square kilometers between the Pacific Ocean to the west and the Amazon jungle to the east, from Colombia to the north to Chile to the south. Tambos, temples, palaces, high-altitude shrines, and mining complexes, each construction responding to a different function, but always according to a formal principle that provided its architecture meaning and coherence. The Andean worldview was intimately connected to nature and its surroundings. Considering Mother Earth a sacred entity, Pachamama, the sacralization of geographical landmarks such as lagoons, volcanoes, hills, caves, springs, and glaciers exemplifies the respect they paid her. Sowing and harvesting were dictated by the moon and its cycles, and benefited from the love of the Great Father Inti. The sun, the understanding of Earth's cycles in relation to the sun, plus the use of simple tools, such as sticks and ropes, was enough for them to precisely calculate the orientation of buildings and the layout of their cities. Thus, every intervention and construction was carried out on the basis of intangible principles that, in turn, arise directly from this religious bond of love and respect for the earth, as if there was a profound relationship between the buildings and its placement, and evident integration with the natural order. Fundación Código Andino was created to promote archaeological conservation and research throughout Andean America. As part of a first research project, we devised 2 objectives. The first being the study of the possible spatial relationship between the ruins in a given territory, and secondly, to study the relationship between the design and layout of each of these ruins and the geographical environment. For this purpose, we included in a geographic information system all the photogrammetric surveys of pre-Hispanic ruins that we have carried out with our drones, using digital elevation models to analyze the morphology of the surrounding geography. These studies took us down unexpected paths. The Huaca de Chena is one of the most relevant Inca sites in central Chile. And according to our analysis, we can determine that some of its walls are oriented towards other pre-Hispanic sites. The western wall of the central square of Huaca de Chena, a straight wall of about 50 meters in length, is oriented at 174 degrees from the geographic north. If we project this line in its southerly direction, it coincides with the position of 2 Inca landmarks, the Cerro Grande del Inca Chale and the Pucaré del Cerro Grande de la Compañía in the O'Higgins region. But not only these summits coincide with the same orientation. Further analysis of the surrounding geography showed that 5 of the highest peaks of the central Chilean mountain range are also aligned on an axis of 174 degrees from the geographic north. Mercedario, Aconcagua, Marmolejo, Manchado, and Volcan Mapo, all aligned on the same 174-degree axis. After expanding our study area, we found the same alignment pattern, but now in the coastal mountain range, in between the highest peaks, Chauch, Roble, and Roble Alto, a new parallel axis with an orientation of 174 degrees. What would be the reason for these peaks to be arranged in the form of parallel lines? We would have to analyze the internal properties of the substrates that make up the geography to understand it. Feldspars are the most abundant minerals in the Earth's crust and make up to 60% of its volume. The mineral lineations present in feldspar crystals have a structure whose geometry is planar, and where, in addition, joints and unions are formed at different angles. These lineations are, evidently, what anyone would recognize as parallel lines. We believe that these patterns of lines that repeat at different scales, both microscopically and on a continental scale, arise from a fractal property of the Earth's crust. For example, let's take the Inca site of Cerro Grande de la Compañía, where some of its structures are arranged in a 20-degree orientation following the main axis of the hill. This same orientation is clearly distinguished in the main axis of Cerro Collipeumo, which unsurprisingly also features Inca ruins on its top. This 20 degrees axis can also be observed in the Andes mountain range in the form of hills and volcanoes lineaments. Volcan Tupangado, Cerro Alto San Juan, Nevado Puquenes, Volcan Palomo, Cerro Alto del Padre, Volcan Planchon, Volcan Azufre, Volcan Descalvizado Grande, and Volcan Quizapo, all arranged in parallel axes and covering large areas of the territory, from valleys to coastal lines and bodies of water. So we set out to identify the different representative axes of South America along the Andes territory. We have called this set of geographic axes the geomorphological grid, GMG. The orientation patterns that we have found in the Inca architecture coincide with the orientation of the GMG from the walls located in the southern end of Tawantinsuyu to the squares and megalithic terraces of the main temples near the city of Cusco. This order is evident when we analyze the architecture of the Inca ruins. What? Is there a relationship between these ruins and the layout of the oldest cities in Andean America? This question arises when we studied the diagonal of the main square of the Huaca de Chena, which points towards the historic center of Santiago City. If we follow this line, we arrive accurately at the Metropolitan Cathedral and the Plaza de Armas, where an archaeological substrate of Inca origin has been found by previous studies. In addition, the Plaza de Armas and the streets of Santiago City's Old Quarter also follow a particular pattern. They are oriented 174 degrees with respect to the geographic north. Our findings question the origin of the so-called Spanish checkerboard, raising the possibility of a pre-Columbian urban layout, or rather, an Andean checkerboard, where its geometry and orientation somehow replicates the axis of the Andes mountain range and establishes a connection with the constructions of Inca origin, applying conventional archaeology to the substrates of the central squares in each of these cities would be enough to determine their true origin. What would be the political and cultural consequences if we were to discover that our cities were built by those who believed that nature was a sacred entity and not a resource to be exploited? Would it change our perception of the territory, or, for that matter, of our own identity? In any case, it is clear that the Andean culture identified and codified, through the layout of its architecture, an order in the geography that, until now, had not been mechanized. And although these findings are the outcome of an exhaustive study using new technologies, we should not cease to marvel at the legacy of the Andean cultures, who several centuries ago, by means of unknown methods, managed to manifest the recognition that there is, on Earth, an order within chaos.